This show is part of OnePlace, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to our daily roundup. We are diving into a major military scandal, high-stakes Middle East diplomacy, and a royal visit that could reshape international relations. Let's get right into the headlines.
A U.S. soldier faces charges for betting on Maduro.
Trump extends the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire by 3 weeks.
U.S. forces board an Iranian oil ship amid threats.
A fragile truce continues between Israel and Hezbollah forces.
King Charles III prepares for a vital U.S. visit.
Singer D4VD faces disturbing new allegations in court today.
Internal debates shape the administration's evolving Iran policy goals.
Watchdogs investigate the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files.
First, the soldier betting scandal.
This is a stunning breach of trust involving Gannon Ken Van Dyke, an active-duty Special Forces soldier stationed at Fort Bragg. He has been charged by the Department of Justice for allegedly using classified information to win over $400,000 on Polymarket. The bets were placed on the removal of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro during Operation Absolute Resolve. Van Dyke was actually part of the military operation that captured Maduro in January. Prosecutors say he created his account in late December and started trading on markets related to Venezuela, while he was in possession of non-public, highly sensitive details about the upcoming raid. It is a classic case of insider trading, but with the added weight of national security implications and the misuse of military intelligence for personal profit.
The legal consequences here are quite severe. Van Dyke faces multiple charges, including the unlawful use of confidential government information, theft of government property, and wire fraud. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche emphasized that while prediction markets like Polymarket are a new phenomenon, the federal laws protecting national security information are very much established and applicable. Interestingly, Polymarket itself flagged the suspicious activity and cooperated with the DOJ investigation, stating that insider trading has no place on their platform. This case serves as a warning to service members that their access to classified data cannot be leveraged for financial gain. The raid in Caracas was a high-stakes mission, and the idea that someone involved was essentially gambling on the outcome, using secret knowledge, has clearly outraged the Justice Department and military leadership alike.
Next, the ceasefire extension.
President Trump has announced that the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon will be extended for another 3 weeks. This news came after high-level talks in Washington involving envoys from both nations. Trump shared on Truth Social that the meetings went very well and that the United States is committed to helping Lebanon protect itself from the influence of Hezbollah. This extension is critical because the previous agreement was set to expire this Sunday. The ultimate goal remains ending the 7 weeks of intense fighting between the Israeli military and the Iran-backed group. Trump also mentioned that both Lebanese President Joseph Aoun and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are expected to visit the White House soon. It seems the administration is trying to synchronize these regional efforts with their broader strategy regarding Iran's influence in the Middle East.
Despite the diplomatic optimism, the situation on the ground remains incredibly tense. Both Hezbollah and Israel have traded accusations of violating the existing truce. Just as the talks were beginning in Washington, Hezbollah reportedly fired rockets into northern Israel, claiming it was a response to Israeli violations. The IDF intercepted those launches and has continued its own operations against targets it links to the militant group. There is also a significant humanitarian and legal cloud over the conflict, with Lebanon recently accusing Israel of war crimes following airstrikes that hit journalists. The ambassadors from both sides expressed a shared desire to rid Lebanon of what they called the malign influence of Hezbollah. But the path to a permanent peace is still blocked by daily skirmishes and deep-seated mistrust that 3 weeks of extension might not fully resolve.
Now, the naval blockade.
The U.S. Navy has taken aggressive new steps in the Indian Ocean by boarding a sanctioned ship, the MT Majestic X, which was carrying Iranian oil. This maritime interdiction is part of a broader blockade that began in mid-April, aimed at cutting off Iran's oil revenue and maritime traffic. President Trump has significantly escalated the rhetoric, ordering the Navy to shoot and kill any vessel caught laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. This is a direct response to the strategic importance of that waterway, which is a choke point for a huge portion of the world's energy supplies. Trump claims the blockade is 100% effective and that Iran is currently getting no business. He even stated that he rejected an Iranian offer to reopen the strait, insisting that it will only happen when a new deal is reached.
Iran's reaction has been predictably defiant. They have described the U.S. actions as piracy and claim they are successfully collecting tolls from ships navigating the strait, though these claims haven't been independently verified. The deputy speaker of the Iranian parliament says these funds are being deposited into their central bank. Meanwhile, the diplomatic friction is growing because this blockade continues despite a 2-week ceasefire mediated by Pakistan. Iranian negotiators are now saying it is impossible to reopen the strait while the blockade remains in place, calling it a violation of the truce. Trump, however, maintains that the U.S. has total control over the region. The tension is palpable, especially after Iran's Navy seized 2 cargo ships earlier this week. This back-and-forth seizure of vessels suggests that the maritime conflict is becoming the primary front for U.S.-Iran pressure tactics.
Moving to the truce.
The 3-week extension of the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire is being framed by the White House as a major diplomatic win, but it sits on a very shaky foundation. President Trump is personally involving himself in the negotiations, planning to host both Netanyahu and Aoun at the White House. He is positioning the U.S. as a protector for Lebanon against Hezbollah, which is a bold shift in regional dynamics. However, Iran has already dismissed these extensions as meaningless. They argue that as long as the U.S. naval blockade persists, any ceasefire is effectively being undermined by economic warfare. This creates a complex situation where the land-based truce in Lebanon is being held hostage by the naval tensions in the Indian Ocean and the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. Central Command has already diverted over 30 vessels since the blockade began, showing the scale of the operation.
The economic impact of this instability is already being felt globally. Brent crude oil is trading at over $105 a barrel because of the disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz. This waterway handles about a fifth of the world's oil and natural gas, so any threat of mining or military engagement sends shockwaves through the markets. Adding to the internal complexity, there has been a significant shakeup at the Pentagon. Navy Secretary John Phelan was recently dismissed after months of tension with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. This leadership change comes at a time when the Navy is being asked to triple its minesweeping efforts and potentially engage Iranian boats. With the Revolutionary Guard calling Trump's shoot-to-kill order an overt breach of the ceasefire, the risk of a direct military miscalculation remains high despite the diplomatic talk of extensions.
Next, the royal visit.
President Trump has expressed great optimism about the upcoming state visit of King Charles III and Queen Camilla. In a recent interview with the BBC, Trump called the king a fantastic and brave man, suggesting that this visit could absolutely help repair the somewhat strained relations between the U.S. and the U.K. The 4-day visit starts Monday and will include a private meeting at the White House and an address to Congress. This trip is particularly significant as it marks the 250th anniversary of U.S. independence. While the royal family usually stays out of politics, the timing is crucial given the public disagreements between Trump and UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. The president has been vocal about his dissatisfaction with the UK's level of support in the Iran conflict and has even criticized Starmer's domestic policies on immigration and energy.
The friction with Prime Minister Starmer was a major point in Trump's interview. He suggested that Starmer could only recover his standing if he changed course on immigration and increased oil and gas extraction in the North Sea. Trump even took a swipe at the appointment of Lord Mandelson as the UK ambassador, calling it a bad pick. Starmer has pushed back, stating that his decisions are based on British national interests, and that he will not be diverted by outside comments, especially regarding his refusal to be dragged into the war in Iran. This creates a fascinating dynamic for the king's visit. While the monarch represents the historical and cultural bond of the special relationship, the political leaders are fundamentally at odds over major global security issues. The visit will be a test of whether traditional diplomacy can smooth over these very public policy rifts.
Now, the D4VD case.
The legal situation for the singer D4VD, whose real name is David Anthony Burke, has taken a dark turn. Prosecutors revealed in court that they found a significant amount of child sex abuse images on his phone and iCloud account. These discoveries were made during the investigation into the death of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whose dismembered remains were found in Burke's Tesla last September. The prosecution alleges that Burke sexually abused the teenager and then killed her to protect his music career. While he has pleaded not guilty to murder and the mutilation of remains, these new allegations regarding the images add a horrifying layer to the case. His attorneys are promising a vigorous defense, claiming the evidence will show he did not kill the girl, but the digital evidence being presented by the district attorney is substantial and deeply disturbing.
This case has been shrouded in mystery for months, leading to various online conspiracies before the recent arrest. D4VD was a rising star on TikTok with massive hits, but his career came to a halt when his car was found at a tow yard with a foul odor emanating from the trunk. The discovery of the body in a zipper bag led to a worldwide tour cancellation and his retreat from public life. Now, with 7 criminal charges against him, including continuous sexual abuse of a child, the legal battle is intensifying. The Los Angeles police chief and the district attorney have emphasized that they have recovered a vast amount of forensic evidence. As the court hearings continue next week, the public is finally getting a clearer, albeit tragic picture of the events that led to the death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez and the downfall of a viral music sensation.
Next, the Iran policy.
There is a lot of discussion right now about who is actually driving U.S. policy toward Iran, given the often contradictory messages coming from the White House. On one hand, President Trump praised the Iranian regime for a gesture of mercy toward protesters, but on the other, he issued a shoot-to-kill order for their naval vessels. This has led to questions about the influence of the cabinet, particularly Vice President J.D. Vance. Vance has been tasked with leading negotiations in Pakistan, which is interesting because he was initially seen as the member of the administration most opposed to the conflict. Sources suggest that Trump wants someone who can act as a sympathetic ear to Iran's concerns to help facilitate an exit from the war. Vance is being positioned as the heir apparent who can think about the long-term relationship beyond the current hostilities.
The internal debate seems to be between those who want a clean break from the conflict and those who believe continued military pressure is the only way to get a favorable deal. While Vance handles the diplomatic side, the military and national security teams are pushing the blockade and the aggressive rules of engagement in the Strait. This dual-track approach can be confusing for international observers and the Iranian leadership alike. Iran has already called out some of Trump's social media posts as false news, particularly regarding the status of death penalty cases for protesters. The challenge for the administration is to present a unified front that balances these diplomatic overtures with the harsh reality of the naval blockade. As the conflict enters its 55th day, the role of key advisors like Vance will be critical in determining if the U.S. can actually find a path to de-escalation.
Finally, the Epstein investigation.
The Department of Justice's Inspector General has opened an investigation into how the agency is handling the release of files related to Jeffrey Epstein. This follows the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which President Trump signed last year. The law required the DOJ to release all relevant documents within 30 days, but there has been significant criticism from lawmakers about the pace and completeness of these releases. While over 3 million files have been made public, millions more remain hidden. The watchdog will look into the processes for redacting and withholding material to ensure the agency isn't using privacy concerns as a shield to protect powerful individuals. There is a growing sense of frustration among both Democrats and Republicans, like Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, who believe the public deserves full transparency regarding Epstein's network and potential co-conspirators who have yet to face justice.
The investigation is also looking into specific instances of documents being withheld, such as the recent accidental omission of interview summaries involving claims against Trump himself. The president is mentioned thousands of times in the files, though he has consistently denied any wrongdoing. The DOJ maintains that some files must remain private to protect the personal information of survivors or because they are tied to ongoing cases. However, the Inspector General's audit will scrutinize these justifications. With roughly 2.7 million files currently available online, the gap between what has been released and the estimated 6 million files in the government's possession is a major point of contention. This audit is a significant step toward verifying whether the Justice Department is truly complying with the law or if there is merit to the accusations of a cover-up for the elite.
That wraps up our briefing for today. Be sure to follow us for the next daily update on these developing stories. Thank you for listening.